morning, boys and girls. Today is Thursday, April 2nd. Just kidding, it's actually Wednesday, April 1st, and you would recognize my outfit from our Zoom meeting we just had, but I have to record the video early so that it's ready to go out to you tomorrow. So we're pretending that it is Thursday, April 2nd. So we're ready for our math lesson today, so let's start up at the top with our objective. So I'm going to read it one time all the way through, and then I'll repeat it back so that you can say it to yourself as well. So our objective is today we'll equally partition circles into equal shares. So your turn now. Today we'll equally partition circles, your turn, all right, into equal shares. Nice job. So one of our vocabulary words then, of course, is the word circle, but you guys know what a circle is. We've studied those in probably preschool, definitely kindergarten and first grade, and we also talked about them in our second grade geometry unit right before this fraction unit. So I know you're super familiar with the shape of a circle. So I have 4 circles here, okay, and I'm going to be working on partitioning them, which is our next vocabulary word, but also not a word that's super new to you because we've been talking about partitioning since last week. So the word partition has a chunk in it, the word part, and we underline that part of the word partition because it gives you a clue about what the word partition means. So the word partition means to divide an object into, into smaller shares or parts. So we have part underlined there because we're dividing a whole object into smaller parts, okay? Or we use a fancier math word for the word parts and we call them shares. So I'm going to work on partitioning these 4 circles up at the top. I'm actually not going to partition the first one though, and that's because this just represents one whole circle. So we would call this a whole, okay? Now I'm going to partition the next circle into halves. Now, not perfectly equal, but I did the best I could, given that I'm not using any measuring tools. So there's 1 half, and then there's another half. So there's 2 shares all together. I'm going to write it right here. And then I'm actually going to go ahead and I am going to shade in half of it blue. So now 1 half of the whole circle is shaded. So the fraction for this is 1 half. And we would call this half, but then there are also 2 halves. So half is the singular version, and halves means there's more than 1 half. Okay, now I'm going to partition the next circle into thirds. So the way that I do this, I like to just put a dot in the middle, and then I do 1 line like that, and then 2 lines like that. It ends up looking a lot like a peace sign, which is pretty cool. So I have 3 shares all together, 1, 2, 3. So the fraction, I'm going to divide these so they don't get mixed up. So the fraction for this circle is something, a numerator out of 3 shares because there's 3 pieces all together. I'm going to shade in 2 parts out of the whole circle. And I shaded those in blue. So my numerator shows how much is shaded. So 2/3 out of this circle is shaded, okay? We call this thirds. Thirds, for singular, we would say 1/3, but for 2/3, we would say it's divided into thirds, okay? And then the last one, I'm actually going to divide into fourths. So I start by first dividing it into halves, and then I just do another line horizontally, and then I end up with fourths. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So to write this fraction, 4 is our denominator because there are 4 parts all together. And then I'm actually going to shade in all 4 pieces so I can show you kind of a trick. So I have gone ahead and I've shaded all 4 parts. So to write this fraction, I would say that 4 out of 4 parts are shaded. Now, this is actually another way to write the number 1. When the numerator and the denominator are the same number, you have the same number on the top and the same number on the bottom, that means that you have shaded in the entire thing. So this whole circle is shaded. So this could also equal actually just the number 1. But we would say that the circle is divided into fourths. Okay. So this is the vocabulary that you're going to need to know for today in order to complete your lesson. So let's check out some modeling so that I can show you what you're going to be working on today. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to model 2 problems for you today. So I always start by reading the directions at the top of the page, which say partition circles into equal shares. Remind me, what is this word again? Oh yeah, partition. So number 1 says partition the circle into halves. Shade 1/2 of the circle. So there's actually 2 sets of instructions there. So I'm going to start actually just by partitioning it into halves. Partitioning this this circle into halves. And there's lots of ways that I could do that. I could do it vertically, and I'm using a ruler here to make sure I get a straight line. I could do it horizontally if I want to. I can do it diagonally. I could do it diagonally this way. It's really your choice. I'm just going to do it vertically. Okay. So if you have a ruler at home or something with a straight edge, you can always use that to make your lines a little bit straighter. And then it says shade 1/2 of the circle. So I'm going to use another color. And I'm going to go ahead and shade in half. Now, it doesn't tell me to do this, but I am going to write the fraction today, and actually, so are you. So, the fraction today is going to look like this. There are 2 parts altogether, so my denominator is 2, and then 1/2 of the circle is shaded. So, my fraction for today is 1/2, right? I'm going to model number 2 for you as well. Number 2 says, divide the circle into thirds and shade 1/3. All right. So again, just like I showed you earlier, I start by making a dot there so that it's kind of right in the middle. And then I'm going to connect my dot to the edge. Well, as we learned in geometry, that's not really an edge, but to the side of my circle. The outside, and then I'm going to do the same thing down here, and then I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So trying to make it as even as I can, as equal as I can, but it's not exact, and that's all right. All right, and then it says shade 1/3. So I'm going to choose a third to shade, doesn't matter which one, and I'm going to shade it in with a marker. You can use markers, you can use crayons, you can use colored pencils, doesn't matter, okay? Then it says how much of the circle is shaded. So you are going to practice writing the fraction down here, just like you did in number 1. So I start with my fraction bar. There were 3 parts all together, 1, 2, 3. And then I shaded 1 of those 3 shares. So my fraction today is 1/3. Okay. All right, so now that I've gone over today's objective and our important vocabulary words, and I've also modeled 2 problems for you, it's time for you to go try some of these problems on your own. So you're going to head to Google Classroom to find your assignment for the independent practice. Now you have 2 options. Option 1 is you can print the worksheets out if you have access to a printer, and you can use a pencil and markers and colored pencils or crayons to complete that task. Or you can do option 2, which is to complete the worksheets on Seesaw. Now, after you're done with option 1 or option 2, you're also going to submit your work to me on Seesaw by creating a video presentation. So remember, when we do a presentation in math, we have a few different expectations to follow. So we start by 1, reading the directions, 2, reading the question out loud to the class, 3, explaining how you got your answer or what you did to solve the problem. 4, we invite feedback, which in this case is going to come from Miss Garcia. So either I will approve your work and say you did it correctly, or I'll send you a little message back, a comment on Seesaw letting you know if you need to change something, all right? And then of course, you need to make sure that you are projecting your voice by using an actor's voice. So I'm looking for a presentation just like the ones you would do here in class if I pulled your stick and you came up. So looking definitely for student presentations today as your work submission, okay? And you're going to be submitting problems 1 and 2 from your final check. All right, good luck.